I ran a game at a convention. It was the first time I'd run that particular game, and I just knew it was going to be a disaster. Hey there, adventurers. I'm Judd, and this is Short Rest Studios, where we believe that fun builds community. There's one reason other people seem to be better dungeon masters than you. Impostor syndrome. I recently did an informal poll of my friends and online community, some of whom are pretty well-known D&D YouTubers, and it turns out that 82% of them are either dealing with imposter syndrome now or have faced it before. If imposter syndrome is such a problem for DMs, how can we get past it? First, I think it's helpful to understand why it's such a problem. Imposter syndrome basically boils down to a lack of confidence. Sometimes we lack confidence as DMs because we're insecure. We're just not confident in general. I can completely relate to that, and I wish I could help you and myself with it. But here's something that I can help you with. Sometimes we feel like Dungeon Master imposters because we're new. Remember that game I mentioned earlier? I'd been running D&D for a while, but this was the first time I ran a game of Dungeon Crawl Classics. It was at a small convention. Now, why I chose to run a game I'd never run before at a con, I'm not entirely sure. Like I said, I was new to DCC. I couldn't find any players at the time, and I was going to this convention, so I guess I thought, why not? Problem was, I didn't really know the rules as well as I'd have liked to because I was new. I was sweating it so much. I overprepared, I was incredibly nervous leading up to the convention, and I just knew these poor people who'd signed up for it, the only DCC game at the convention, by the way, would feel like they just wasted 4 hours at a con they paid to attend. This game was going to implode. I'll finish that story later in the video, I promise, but I bet that probably sounds familiar. I had some of the skills necessary to run the game, but I didn't know a lot of what I thought I needed to know. Look, it's most likely true, especially if you're a new DM, that there are people out there who know the game better than you do. But I believe firmly that reading the rules isn't enough. You have to actually run the game to learn it. Everyone has to start somewhere. Another reason we feel like imposters? This guy. Not him personally, I've heard he's a really nice guy, but the existence of professional DMs like him create unrealistic expectations. It's not Matt Mercer's fault or the fault of any pro DM. It's a thing that's happening in our brains. We see what they do, we hear the cool NPCs voiced by a professional voice actor, we see the incredible set pieces and the fully engaged players and the epic stories, and we get the idea that that's what we have to live up to. But we don't. Then there's social media. I follow RPG related stuff on different platforms, and it's really easy to come away from a lot of those interactions with the feeling that I am the most worthless DM on the planet. It's okay to look for advice and ideas in those places, but you're not those people. And there's nothing that says you have to be. I mean, social media exists to make us feel bad. We are not professional voice actors. We're not all crafters. We don't have a crew of people working through story beats and setting up our game space. We don't all have 40 years of experience playing the game. I can almost promise you, no one expects you to live up to those expectations. And if they do, maybe one of you should move on. Another reason we feel like DM imposters is because maybe we're actually good DMs. Let me ask you some questions, and they're not rhetorical. Answer them. Maybe write those answers down. Does your player's experience matter more to you than telling your story? Do you like it when they get to do something cool? Do you laugh with them when they do something silly or crazy? Do you want your players to have fun? Hot take, that's the most important characteristic of a good DM. You want your players to have fun. Come a little closer. Let me tell you something. If you're worried about how well you're running your campaign because you really want your players to have a good time, you're doing it right. I love creating content for you adventurers, and I can't do it without your support. Thank you for watching these videos, for hitting like and subscribe. I want to invite you to join the Adventurers Guild on Patreon and become an integral part of producing this content every week. The money you give goes toward the tools, materials, and time that keep this channel up and running. In return, Guild members get shout-outs in every episode, early access to new videos, access to a Guild-only Discord channel, quarterly adventure seeds, and of course, my heartfelt gratitude. I asked the question at the beginning of this video, how can DMs get past imposter syndrome? Well, here are a couple of tips. First off, you have to change your thinking. The problem here isn't really your skills or lack thereof. It's the way you think about being a dungeon master. When you sit down at the game table and those imposter thoughts come raging into your head, you have to work on changing that internal script. That Dungeon Crawl Classics game I was telling you about, 3 of the folks at the table were experienced DCC players. I almost threw up when they told me that because I knew they were about to find out what a fraud I was. But I also knew I really wanted them to have fun. And I was going to do my best to help them do that. I flipped that internal script. I didn't know all the rules of the game, but I knew the adventure inside and out. I knew how to respond to what the players chose to do, and I'm smart enough to find the answers if I don't know them or listen to people who do know them. I focused on what I could do. And I reminded myself that it's okay to make a mistake. I don't always have to know the answer. It's okay to ask for help. The players in my DCC game who were more experienced than I was very kindly helped me out with rules questions. It kept the game moving and nobody cared that I didn't know all the answers. Second, set expectations ahead of time. It's always a good idea to do session 0, but I think it's especially important for you if you're lacking confidence. When I ran that DCC game, among other things, I let the players know, hey, I'm new to DCC, so it might be a little rough. There's nothing wrong with doing that. If you're no good at voices, let them know if you think you need to. If you can't cut a straight line in a piece of foam, it's okay to say there won't be terrain. Guys, I am terrible at drawing maps, but I do it anyway. And I tell my players I'm not great at it, as if they wouldn't be able to tell anyway. Now don't go overboard and make yourself look completely inept. You're not. But it is okay to say this game won't have fancy terrain or professionally painted minis or funny voices, but I want you guys to have fun. Just telling them that, bringing it out in the open, will help you get a handle on your feelings too. Third, work on progressing. All of us can always improve, but next session doesn't have to fix every mistake you think you made this session. Just focus on getting 1% better every time. Maybe look at one mistake and nail it down before that next game night. You won't be perfect, you never will be, but before you know it, you'll be 10% better. My friend Stephanie over at Stephanie Plays Games has some great tips for this in a video she did on this very topic. I'll link to it in the description. Finally, look at your players. No, really, literally, look at them. Do they look like they're having fun? Do they keep coming back to the table? Then you're doing great. That DCC game, I dreaded it going in. Running a game I was new at for 4 strangers. I did have to swallow my pride a bit, but we all laughed. They did cool stuff, and miracle of miracles, they actually thanked me for running the game. That game was some of the most fun I've ever had. It turned out to be one of my favorite gaming memories. If this video helped you, please don't forget to like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, and consider supporting the channel by joining the Adventurers Guild on Patreon. In the meantime, here's a video YouTube thinks you'll like. I'll see you next time on Short Rest Studios.